Greetings, Whovians. I usually end with peace, but I'll start with it this time, because why not? Kind of makes sense for this episode. Anyway, let's talk about, and by the way, since I totally forgot to put it in last week's thumbnail, I apologize, I also forgot to put it in the title. Thought it was kind of implied, but my bad. I will eventually go back and fix that when I got some time, and I'll keep an eye on it moving forward. Not that I had any complaints, because no one's watching anything yet, so by the time anyone sees that video, it won't matter. But I'll say up front, full spoilers for the episode and the entire series up to this point. So 60 years of spoilers. There's not a whole lot of backstory in this. It's just this is very kind of self-contained episode, so I'm just citing the disclaimer. I'll also make the disclaimer, I never do this in my hockey videos. I'll probably rarely do it in other stuff that's genre or whatever related. I did misspeak a little bit last week when I was talking about Velengard. And that was the first time it's not been from Boom last week. That's the first time it's not been, or not the first time it's been mentioned. I misquoted. I knew the episode was Nightmare or Empty Child. And then Dr. Bansis was part 2 of that. But yeah, in the first part, when he first meets Captain Jack, yeah, it's not the Square gun, it was the Sonic Blaster, and he got it from the Villangar weapons factory, not the armory, and not. So I just mixed up a couple of words. I apologize. I only say that because I did boast, like, I've memorized all these episodes, I know them by heart. Yeah, I do, kind of. I just sometimes just misplace a couple of words. No biggie, but I know if I don't. It actually doesn't matter if I correct it. The comment section will still be like, hey, you got the thing wrong. But internet, what can you do? Anyway, wasted 2 minutes not talking about the new episode. Let's get to it. Alright. Actually, as I also found out between last week and this week, apparently my whole numbering system, like referring to this, for example, in Season 1, Episode 4, actually not that controversial. That's sort of how BBC's listing it too on their side of things. So, and a lot of fans. So it's either see it as Season 1 or Series 14, depending on your point of view. And I guess if you want to add all the classic series, it'd be into like the, I don't know, whatever 30-40 range. Actually more than that, because I don't want to do math. Anyway, let's talk about Doctor Who, not things related to it. Anyway, as per current numbering, Season 1, Episode 4, 73 Yards, written by Russell C. Davies. It's funny because I have in my note here, when I knew the episode title, I the math on my calculator just for fun. So I put, the episode title in quotes, the 73 yards, and underneath that I wrote, AKA 219 feet. Just for reference sake, I guess. For me, I guess it's easier to kind of visualize that as opposed to 73 feet. Not a big football guy. I think it's probably partially metric. Ironic though, because they would, again, full spoilers, they'll mention this exact same thing in the episode of 72 yards, 219 feet, or 66.7 meters. I added that to my notes because, again, there's a whole line in the episode where they actually go into that, the different measurements of that distance. Anyway, first thing that caught my attention with this episode, no title sequence. And I caught that right away because I actually kind of like the idea of using the title card with the episode name and the writer as like the thumbnail for this, because I can just add stuff to it and hey, it's done. I'm not spoiling anything in the episode, so, which is funny because these are all full spoiler reviews, so it wouldn't matter. But I like to keep the thumbnails spoiler free as much as possible. Like even the hockey game I did a while ago, there was a game 7. For the thumbnail, I used the handshake line. Because you don't know who won. You know the series is over no matter what, so there's going to be a line. So I thought that was a fun thing, just to, again, not spoil too much about what happened in the game. In case you're watching my recaps to find out what happened, which is interesting. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. The hockey video went so quick, like 4.5 minutes ago when I finished recording it, went to this. It's just a mess. Alright, let's get back on track. Yeah, no title sequence. Just starts rolling, you get your credits are written by, you see the actors' names, like the stuff you would see in the title sequence normally. And even the stuff you would see after that normally, like the producer credits, things like that, etc., they're all on screen while the episode's starting. There is no title sequence in this episode, which I actually think works for this episode. I think it was actually a really good choice. It's different, but because typically Doctor Who has what we call a cold open, and then the title sequence, and then you get back to the story. This one, I think it worked best because of the nature of the story and the way it was set up. Yeah, the title sequence would have probably thrown off the rhythm and timing of some of the early beats of the storyline. So I think it was a good call to not include it. So weird to say, I know it's probably, I'm almost positive it's happened before, where for whatever reason choices were made and they chose to not use the title sequence to not break up storyline. I know it's happened before, I just don't remember. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't cite what episode or episodes. It might have been more than once where that happened, but I can't recall it off the top of my head. Anyway, that aside, as I said last week when I was just seeing the next time, the preview, looked like this episode was going to lean more into like kind of horror vibes. And definitely for sure, early on in the episode, it feels like there's a hard push of the supernatural angle from the locals when Ruby goes to town, to the bar, to the tavern. Reminded me, I was starting to get some vibes. I can't remember the name of the episode, it's been bugging me. It was in the 11th Doctor, or his final season, which would have been Series 7, I think. His final series with Clara. And they go to the haunted house with the ghosts. Turns out to be like timey-wimey, like time traveler stuck. Like, very cool episode, very cool resolution to that story too. I always do like it when Doctor Who does do those episodes every now and then that look more like they're supernatural things, and then you get a much more mundane explanation for what's really going on. Usually some kind of alien technology or species or something. This episode, on the other hand, takes a different approach to that, and we'll get to it. So, again, this is full spoilers, so I'm assuming you've seen the episode or you don't care. I'm just living it through me, which is a bad way to do it, especially right now when I'm rambling. Anyway, let's get back on point here. Sorry, let me wet my throat. Talking for 2 videos. Well, this is the second one, but where was I? Oh yeah, like I said, feels like a hard push on that supernatural. Reminds me of, I can't remember any episode, but a good episode from the 11th Doctor, or Matt Smith era. But as it turns out, we quickly find out, as that scene's building and all this stuff, the locals are just messing with her. Because they're in Wales, it's Welsh, and they're like, yeah, we're not all witches. It's a nice little fun joke thing. But as the story's unfolding, we're still trying to kind of figure out what's going on with this mystery woman following Ruby, or where she goes. And I thought, this was in my notes, I took these notes like in real time as I'm watching it for the first time, so it's kind of fun how it plays out. You could see a little more of my thought process when I watch Doctor Who. Especially right now where we have a bigger mystery to unravel. I for a second I thought maybe, because of the way that the episode's playing out, anyone that goes and talks to this mystery woman immediately becomes afraid, specifically afraid of Ruby, and just runs away. Which made me wonder if, because again, Doctor's been dealing with a lot of like celestial like gods basically with this new era of this run so far. So I'm like, is this like the god of fear itself kind of thing? So is that what's going on here that we're tackling? My thought at the time. Then there's a 1-year time jump. So that happened. Because Ruby eventually, I believe, goes. Oh no, she doesn't go home quite yet, I don't believe. Or maybe she does. Oh yeah, I'm trying to remember the orders things. She does eventually go home, and same thing sort of happens with her mom, and I forget who else is the other relative that she lives with. It's her adopted grandmother. I think it is, yeah. But either way, so that whole thing happens, and that's a big deal. And as I've said, every episode so far of the new Russell T Davies era has had at least some tone, some plot point that has to do with family. And I don't remember. It's later on. It's after the unit shows up. It's what later on in the episode where Ruby does have a comment to someone about like everyone she's known has abandoned her, kind of thing. It felt like it wasn't a main theme really, but it was an undercurrent kind of sub theme of the episode. I felt of touching on like those family abandonment issues, because the whole sequence when Ruby's going through this with her mom is kind of heartbreaking. It's really well done though, really well written, performed, great stuff. Anyway, yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, I don't have it in my notes. I think this happens after, like, after her mom abandons her, she finds her own place. Like, then there's that 1 year time jump, and she's just sitting kind of in a cafe outside, and hey, all of a sudden, magic appearance of Kate Lethbridge Stewart. I'm like, yeah, I have my notes in there. KLS to the rescue. Because I'm like, all right, yeah, like, duh, because the Doctor's been off the radar and gone, which concerns the unit whenever that happens. So, and they always know who his companions are. So, yeah, and it's interesting too in the conversation the two of them that Kate and Ruby have. Kate also refers to a line, I'm paraphrasing here, but that things have been events lately that the unit's been dealing with have borderline more on supernatural than the weird science they're used to dealing with the Doctor and that kind of stuff. Like that they're used to. The unit's been doing that stuff for decades in the Doctor Who universe, but they're seeing stuff now that they can't even wrap their heads around. The oddity of it. Anyway, they have a scene where, of course, you know, they bring a big unit like SWAT team in to capture the mystery woman, and even Kate's telling them on her earpiece, like, don't talk to her, don't look at her, don't engage, because she knows it's been reported the effects. Like, unit knows what's going on, but it doesn't matter. She starts doing whatever it is that she does, and the same fear effect towards Ruby happens to all the unit troops. And then as it's talking, you see it change on Kate's face and then her reaction to Ruby. Excellent scene. Really well done. And that's when it's obviously very clear at that point. I picked up on it earlier. It's like, no, it's not just this mystery woman making people afraid, like running for their lives when they hear whatever it is. No, they hear whatever it is she has to say. And then it's like, it's a look of terror directed at Ruby, and that's where the fear is directed at, is at her, not in like a general fear. It's very odd. So yeah, they're all afraid of Ruby, and I have in my notes here, I'm like, maybe it's of what/who she is, potentially, because that's still kind of a odd mystery. By the time I get to this episode, we'll see that's not quite the case, but, well, maybe related. We'll see. Then we have multiple time jumps, actually. By decade, they mark it by showing a little, like, kind of birthday card thing of, like, when she turned 30, turned 40. So all this time going on, they're aging up a little bit, that kind of stuff. And during that time, do a little flashback to the opening scene, which just sounds like some kind of jargon between Ruby and the Doctor. Turns out to be really important. It's like, oh yeah, there's the other guy. You don't gotta worry about him until like 2040 something. Like, I forgot you're from here. Now we're at that time. You get in this whole like election subplot and stuff, which I didn't really note extensively, but I thought it was really great. I thought the resolution of that, with Ruby using a distance finder on her phone to exactly get it to the thing to trigger that was a really fun sequence. Really well edited, actually. I'll give it credit for editing on that, for sure. So, and then we get a 40, and then after that's resolved, which, you know, Ruby thinks, much like Groundhog Day, kind of thinks like, okay, well, this is why this is happening, and it was meant for this moment, and once I fix this, I'll fix the problem, whatever's going on, is her kind of logic in it. And we get this 40-year time jump, and she's going to visit where the TARDIS last landed. At this point, I guess 60 years ago. So obviously it's all grown up, it's like that. And it's funny, people are leaving flowers, and whoever Ruby's with asks them, like, why do people leave flowers? And I think something along the lines of, like, no one really knows why. But it's there's some references to that, I think, in older episodes of Doctor Who. Not classic Who, but modern era. So it's a nice touch. One interesting thing I noticed that I'll call her Older Ruby said that she makes a reference to it never having snowed again. I don't know if she's talking about it never happened since the Doctor left or since she cleared up the whole election plot. Because I think there's snow in the episode. It's hard to tell if it's seasonal, if it's coming from Ruby. So it's when we get to the ending here, you'll see why I'm probably going to go back and watch the episode again and look at some other video breakdowns other people have done, like Theories. Theories I'll always recommend. I think he's one of if not the best people on YouTube talking about Doctor Who. So props to him. There's a lot of channels out there that talk Doctor Who. He's the only one I bother to watch most of the time, 90% of the time. So props to Theories. I want to see what he thinks about all this, especially the ending, because I have here in my notes, the ending is a bit timey-wimey. And this is a Davies episode too. Not Moffat, that was last week. So we get the timey-wimey this time. That was something that Moffat invented. Yeah, I just have, next note for next week. But I guess we can try and talk about the ending, what I think happened. Maybe, yeah, I think this does tie into whatever's special about Ruby. Why she was able to do this. Because it plays out to where she's on her deathbed. Apparently, seemingly, maybe dies. And then her old self is taken back, like ghost, spirit, I don't know. Back to that moment. And apparently, I guess one of the things she's saying, at least there, is don't step. It took me a while to pick it up. It wasn't until after it played out I realized what she was saying, because it's kind of hard to make out. I don't know, maybe I should listen to it with headphones, but she was saying don't step, because the Doctor stepping on that little thing and Ruby opening up is sort of what started the whole chain reaction in the first place, sort of thing. So she was able to somehow prevent that and then disappears, but obviously we're dealing with like an alternate, like Back to the Future type of like 1985B that split off and then reconnected, like, or almost like Donnie Darko, Tangent Universe. This is like a tangent timeline that split off. I don't know. I know Doctor Who well, and I love episodes like this that you watch the end of it and you're like, okay, I don't know exactly what happened, but I need to go watch it again so I can start figuring this out, or look at what other people are thinking too. Because yeah, to be honest, I don't know what happened at the end of this episode. With Ruby, I think it's gonna play into whatever's special about her, but it was odd. I don't really know any other way to explain it, of how she lived through this time. The interesting thing about this whole episode really is the way it ended too. Both Ruby and the Doctor have no idea. I mean, it doesn't really matter for the Doctor. This was also a Dr. Light episode. I talked last week about the bottle episode idea, which Blink kind of was, and generally in Doctor Who they refer to those as Dr. Light, and usually that's because of scheduling issues. Like Midnight, for example, not Dr. Light, Dr. Heavy. It's Donna Light, because again, scheduling. They wrote something episode around not needing Catherine Tate for Donna and just mostly focused on the Doctor. This again was the opposite. I mean, the Doctor, David Tennant's in Blink periodically in a sort of special way. We're not spoiling old episodes. You should all know. If you're watching this, probably. But yeah, this was definitely Dr. Light for sure. Like, he shows up at the beginning and the end, and really it's the same scene. There's a little extra at the end because of what changed. Like a turn left kind of thing, except there's no Doctor. Well, actually, yeah, turn left was also a little Dr. Light, now that I think about it. Not a whole lot of Doctor in that episode, so not that's a bad thing. I mean, episodes can totally work. And honestly, I know a lot of people that I saw after I did my video of looking at other videos. Okay, yeah, I'm not really sure. I know a lot of people, I looked at some videos and stuff last week talking about Boom, and several people cited it as their favorite episode of the new Davis era. I don't know if I liked it that much. I enjoyed it for sure. I like Moffat's writing. I don't know if it was my favorite of the new era. Like I wouldn't have said that last week. I don't know where I'd rate it, but it wouldn't be number one. 73 yards though. This new episode I think might be my favorite of the new era, just because it's one episode I definitely have to go and watch again and try and figure out what's happening in the episode. And I like stuff like that. So, yeah, it's probably why I like the more timey-wimey Doctor Who episodes, because it makes my brain think and hurt, but in good ways, figure out weird timeline. I'll have to make a chart somewhere probably. So anyway, about 20 minutes, a lot of rambling, not episode coverage. Oh yes, next week, I don't know the title or anything like that, just going from the preview on the broadcast. Looks like a little bit of commentary on social media stuff and internet age, but with monsters, so Doctor Who style. So seems about right. So that should be fun, and I'll see you then. All right, peace everyone. Or Gallifreyan peace would be two. Well, I guess it works. That'd be 4. So that peace 4 times. It's a master reference, kind of. Not really. I'll shut up now. Bye.